We might finally have an actual signing to talk about soon. I know, I can't quite believe it myself either, but it does in fact look like, according to reports from Sky Sports and the boy Darmesh, that Carlos Borges, I don't know how to pronounce his surname, we're going to have to learn that, will in fact be joining West Ham after a week of waiting, after silence, after nothing really happening. He has today said that it's as good as done and the announcement is expected soon. On top of that, we have a couple of other pieces of news to talk about, but before we get to that, I think this is a really, really strong signing. I think it's a great signing. I think with the amount of money we have, it's a really smart signing. We've been talking a lot this summer. The hot topic has been resale value. We can't buy Paolini for this much money because it doesn't have resale value. We can't get James Ward-Prowse because he doesn't have resale value. This has been a big topic since Declan Rice leaving and the money we've made and the bringing in of Tim Stuyton and thinking, right, that is purely to generate more resale value. This is purely one of those situations, a really, really good situation for us, because I know the idea of, for example, his buyback clause has been somewhat of an issue for some people. They don't want to see us buy a player with a buyback clause. That is guaranteed profit. Think about it in those terms. Even if the amount is, say, 40, 50 million, let's say 50 million, right? We buy him for 50 million to 35 million pounds of profit. We've over doubled our money. Do you know what I mean? I'm not concerned about it at all. I think this is a really, really strong signing. It gives us backup that we need. It gives us youth that we need. It gives us other things that we like. I'm just excited for this one. And given the whole hubbub about the argument of the transfer committee and it's a mess, the quote that Gio spoke about previously, I'll leave that video at the end of this one so you can go and see that if you haven't already. All of those things, to see us actually go and sign a player who I think everyone is excited by this one. I don't know anyone who would turn their nose up at this specific signing. I think this is one that actually unifies the fan base. There are lots of players who you might like that someone else might like. There are a lot of players I might like that you might not like. There are a lot of players you might like that I don't know. There is so many different things and opinions in football. This specific one, I haven't seen a single negative comment about, which is rare and exciting. And hopefully the announcement will be soon and we can talk about it maybe a little bit more in depth on the channel as it happens when we have the exact details of the transfer and everything else. But it's exciting that it's happening. The other pieces of breaking news that the boy Darmesh, shout out, has been giving to us over on Sky Sports News as well is that Aaron Cresswell and Cresswell Antonio are both set to remain at West Ham now. But Cresswell Antonio will remain at West Ham after a proposal moved to Al Ettifaq fell through. And Aaron Cresswell's proposed move to West Ham to Wolves is now off. The clubs have been in talks but couldn't come to an agreement. Incredibly good. Well, I say incredibly good. It's good news, but also it is a problem that we're going to have to solve. The squad makeup as it is a complete and utter mess. I was speaking to Jack yesterday on our Patreon, for the Patreon show, Analytics that we do. Jack Elderton, that is, of course, from Analytics United. Check it out. I was talking to him yesterday, and we were talking about the squad makeup and the profile of the players that we have in the squad, how old they are, when their contracts are coming to an end, and it worried me even more than I was already worried. And I was already worried. I did a video a couple of days ago on this very channel talking about the idea of willing to give this transfer window time, despite the fact we hadn't signed anyone and it seemed like we were dawdling to the max, dilly-dallying, if you will. Despite that fact, I felt like this window was so important given potential Asian players leave, like Cresswell Antonio, Aaron Cresswell. We've got contracts coming to an end, like Thomas Souček. We have people like Angelo Bono who need to be sort of recycled out of the team. There is so many moving parts in this. Stuyton coming in, Mark Noble growing into his role, potentially a whole crop of youth players, some of whom might actually genuinely make it at West Ham that we haven't had for a while. We haven't had like a one shining light like Diangana when he came through. We've got a whole bunch of them, a whole group of players who we have really, really high hopes for. I felt like this window was so incredibly important to the future of West Ham, not just the present. When people talk about what's the starting 11 going to be in the first match of the season, yeah, the idea of that being Downs and Souček is incredibly terrifying to me. More terrifying to me than probably most other people, but that I would be willing to sacrifice if we got it correct in the end. Getting it correct in the long term, getting it correct by the end of this window was way more important to us in the long term, in the future, than getting it right, getting it done quickly, I should say. And I still feel that way, but the panic has begun to set in a little bit more whenever you see comments of "it's a mess," which is the thing Gio spoke about that I'll leave at the end of this video. When you see the report that David Moyes had today, the interview he did with Sky Sports, where he was talking about, oh, we've been in Australia and we've been doing, oh, it's been a short summer. And I looked into those comments a little bit and found out that the beginning wasn't quite what it seemed, but although he is still sort of making those comments, and so and it does all lend a sort of vibe of we don't know what direction we're going. It just nothing felt for certain, and so the idea of Borges coming in, Borges, the idea of him coming in is really good because that seems to be us picking a lane. The idea of these two leaving, I think, is good because they're vital to the squad, but it is a problem that needs to be solved. Mikel Antonio and Aaron Cresswell are both the wrong side of 30. They both retain no value. You want to talk about resale value, they retain no value whatsoever, essentially. Mikel Antonio, we were potentially going to get a payday from Saudi Arabia, and a payday for Mikel Antonio seemed to be in the £8 to £10 million range. You know, Aaron Cresswell was going to go for practically nothing to Wolves. It's a massive problem for us because there are way too many things there are way too many players in our squad that are similar to that. Way too many. And we really need to sort those out. But by the same token, we don't have a striker like Mikel Antonio who can do that. If we are going to play Moyes ball again, which I fear and probably suspect we will do, Mikel Antonio is the only one I have 100% confidence can do that role. I'm hopeful of Mubama. Different video for a different time, but I'm very hopeful for Mubama. But with 100% confidence right now, Mikel Antonio is the only one who can do it. Skamaka can't do it, and Danny Ings can't do it. Likewise, I still trust Aaron Cresswell. I know that's a difficult thing to say. I know Gio talks about it a lot. He says he likes Aaron Cresswell, just like I like Aaron Cresswell. But I understand the majority of people have soured somewhat on him. I get why. I think if you had asked me, say 4 games before the end of the season, I would have still chose Aaron Cresswell over Emerson almost every single time. I think he's a better player. I think Emerson had some notably excellent performances, the final obviously being one of them towards the end of the season. And that's given me pause for thought, but I'm still not convinced that he is the future. Actually, the future was the players we were getting linked with when Cresswell was potentially leaving. Your likes of Trevor Bard. Harvey Barnes is not a left back. Bard, people like that. These are all younger fullbacks who are really exciting and could be the future of West Ham. We still don't know what the future is at West Ham. And again, these are problems we have to solve. But I look at it and I think, can we afford to lose Aaron Cresswell? Is it worth losing Aaron Cresswell when I don't think Emerson is any? Personally, I'm not fully convinced on Emerson yet, and all of a sudden I don't know. I just don't know. So I'm happy that they're not leaving. But at the same time, we need to fix that problem sooner rather than later. That obviously leads us to look at the people in charge, this transfer committee, whatever you want to call them, and getting their act together, which I'm hopeful the signing of Carlos Borges seems to be that's going to happen. It seems to be that maybe we are picking a side. Maybe we are finally moving in one direction. That would be nice. Hopefully we can talk more in detail about the actual intricacies of the transfers and break it down and go into, what's the buyback clause? What are any other things, any other clauses involved? I suspect there are some. There's lots of, how these things go. Details. I'm not a details man. Can you tell? I'm not a details man. But hopefully we can go into that soon when it happens. But it is imminent. It should be expected soon. That's according to Darmesh. Shout out to Darmesh, bring us that info. Anyway, how are you feeling about this signing? How do you feel about the Borgia signing? But we're going to speak about that more. How do you feel about Aaron Cresswell and Mikel Antonio staying? That I'm really interested in as well, because I feel like, I don't know, I'm mixed on it, and I feel like you might have some opinions that we could get involved with and learn from together. Apart from that, make sure to subscribe if you're new around here, hit the bell notification icon so you don't miss out on any future videos, and like it because it helps us out a heck of a lot. We'll be back tomorrow at some point, probably. Don't know when. Gio hasn't told me what the video is tomorrow. I don't think we even know yet, so we'll find out together as a unit. But until then, come on, you irons, and enjoy yourselves. See you later. Bye, everyone. Bye.